All right, everybody, welcome in Concrete Jungle, New York Baseball Podcast, Monday edition, Game 5, decisive Game 5 edition here. Paul Russo, next to me as always, Kyle Evans, behind the scenes, Nate Sharman, live from the FingerLakes1.com studios here in Saginaw Falls, New York, at the North Park building, third floor. Happy Monday all, a little bit dreary outside, but I'm sure the action will be heating up later. Was a pretty fantastic sports weekend, though, overall, I must say.
I thought it was one of the wildest ones we've had in a while in terms of all the sports. A lot of upsets, and that's what makes it a fun weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Nate, thanks again as always. How you doing over there on this Monday morning?
Yep, couldn't agree more with the wild sports weekend. Our Bills got the win, though, in thrilling fashion last night, so can't be better than what I am over here, that's for sure.
So we'll jump right on in, obviously recapping the ALCS so far, and the headlines that certainly have cropped up here over the course of the past 36-ish hours now, give or take. Been a rough go of things, I'd say, for Aaron Boone at this point, in terms of managerial decision-making. Business decision-making, I think could probably chalk it up to a couple of different things. So we'll jump right on into Friday's game. Well, what ended up being Friday's game, right? You know, I know when we left on Thursday, weather was a bit hit or miss. Ends up becoming game 2 on Friday night. A 4-2 victory in 10 innings. Ended up being a really tight game. Emmanuel Clase picked up the win for Cleveland, 1-0, 0.00 ERA for him. Jameson Taillon, first appearance out of the pen in pinstripes, picked up the loss. He's 0-1. A de facto nil ERA because his runs will not go against him when he came in. Interesting stuff there. Nestor Cortes got the start, continued his hot streak that he's been on. No decision, 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned, 3 Ks. 3 walks as well. Ended up really coming out of the gate really strong, Nestor did, and did pretty much what he's been doing really post that August 15-16 start that he had, which was really awesome to see. I know we were kind of, I think, openly wondering a little bit, you know, is this the right spot for him? How would he do in the game? But certainly showed up and showed out really, really well in his first career postseason start.
Yeah, he definitely pitched well. The offense didn't really back him up, other than Stanton's 2-run homer.
Yeah.
Earlier in the game, they just couldn't get anything going against Cleveland's bullpen, which has been really good.
Yeah, I mean, the offense, like you said, this is a point of emphasis, especially on Friday, really came out of the gate strong. Obviously, mentioned Giancarlo, he went 1 for 3 with the 2-run shot, had a walk as well. Gleyber Torres was the run who came in off that. He went 2 for 5 on the day, and really pretty much the only bright spot I'd say for this individual is Kiner-Falefa went 2 for 4 with the stolen base on the day. But you know, as we mentioned, right, those were all fairly early on in the games. I mean, IKF's 1 hit came later on, but you know, primarily all the offense was within the first pretty much 5-inning window of that game.
Yeah, and after the first inning, they had just 3 hits over the next 9 innings since it went to the extra inning. They literally just did not hit.
Yeah. It's a tough spot, I guess. Friday was. I know, obviously, right. You're coming off what you thought would be a Thursday game. An interesting call there. They called it fairly early on. It did look like they would have a window to play, but they just kind of jumped ahead and they kind of threw everybody for a little bit of a loop, and to me it certainly looked to be the case of the more experienced, the better probably manager for sure, and Terry Francona over on the Guardians side of things, playing it better over the course of those next 2 games at that point, game 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, after that loss, it just seems like things kind of took a little bit of a turn. Cleveland had all the momentum, and yeah, they kind of been rolling with it.
Yeah. Aaron Judge, 0 for 5 on the day there. It would end up being, and we'll touch more on this obviously with Game 3, but end up being his last game that we've seen him in leadoff so far. 0 for 5 with 4 Ks. Certainly hasn't been the right, or well, I wouldn't say right. It certainly hasn't looked right, definitely in a slump, but that being said, I don't understand the booing that he got Friday. We are in this position as Yankee fans and Yankee, people. The position we get to is not without Judge at this point. Is the slump at the right time? No, I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody that like, hey, this stuff kind of happens. I mean, should he be probably performing better? Yeah, but the fact that you're booing him over really what is only slump probably number like 2 or 3 on the year for him, it's just bad timing of it.
Yeah, I know in the moment you don't really think about that stuff, but like you said, literally they would not be here without him. He does have to perform better, but also guys around him, it would be nice if they kind of, stepped up too. It's not just him.
Right. And to be fair, Rizzo's been all right. Friday was 1 for 3. Also had a couple walks, right? Yeah, Glaber 2 for 5. Obviously, we mentioned Stanton. But it's tough. I mean, and we'll jump into obviously more of the stuff here in just a second with Game 3. But look, I mean, the bottom of the order did no favors for him, at least on Friday. The 8th spot down was a combined 0 for 8. So. Not great, obviously, and even then, if you want to really dive deep, is from 6 on down, it was 2 for 17 in the game. So I mean, it's hard to get a lot of help, and we know obviously pitchers are not going to be pitching directly per se at Judge anyway, even in this sense. Even though we're obviously beyond the historical aspect of it, but he's been second best hitter at worst all year in the American League, and can certainly still do a lot of damage, as we did see obviously the next night.
Yeah, I know in the postseason, obviously, you're not going to score a lot of runs, but Friday scoring 2 runs in 10 innings, that's not acceptable. Right. And you're probably going to lose that game, and they did. And
before we get out of here with this, I mean, definitely get a little bit of a shout out here to the bullpen after effect with Nestor, even Taillon. Look, Taillon came in a tough spot. Not a bullpen guy. I've never been a big fan of having a starter who's never been, even have a bullpen appearance, period, go out and expect him to do well off the bat like that. But, Lou Trevino came out, shut him down pretty quickly. Same thing with, Lizica. Wandy, who, we'll really talk about more about last night's game, but, Wandy's been lights out this whole series. Clay Holmes, who we'll obviously discuss even more, Taillon, and then Clark Schmidt came in and was able to, keep the damage at where it was in that 10th inning.
Yeah, like I said, if they literally just had a little more offense, I think this game's a little different. And they had a couple opportunities, but more times than not, it just seemed like the innings were going too quick. They were kind of just going down in order. Weren't really getting too much traffic on the bases, and of course it didn't work out in the long run.
Yeah, so obviously sets the tone, and with that being the rain-up day, takes away the travel day, so you're right into Game 3 on Saturday, which the Yankees dropped 6-5 after pretty much being up the whole game. Eli Morgan picked up the win out of the Guardian bullpen, 1-0 and 0-0 ERA for him. Clark Schmidt took the loss, 0-1, a 6.75 ERA for him. Luis Severino got the start, no decision after 5 2/3 of work. 8 hits, 3 earned, and 6 strikeouts. So again, Yankees starters pretty much putting the team in the spot that they need to go ahead and shut things down at the point that they get pulled out of the game.
Yeah, Severino did start out slow, kind of battled back. Was able to get the Yankees some distance, not as much as they probably would have hoped, but he did get through 5 at least. And they had the lead again, and they didn't hang on to it, and that's the question mark that was going into this postseason is how are they going to get outs? You can't. I mean, you can use guys multiple days in a row, but I mean, like tonight, if Wandy Peralta pitches, it would be his 5th straight game. That's a lot of pitches, especially in one of his outings. It was 23 pitches.
I mean, at minimum, as you mentioned with Wandy, right, it's going to be 4 straight days of work and 4 straight games of work. But look, you mentioned, right, a couple guys, and bring up Judge here. He finally got on the board here in the series, 1 for 4 on the day with a 2-run home run. Obviously, maybe collectively not the body work, but it was good to see at the very least he's not completely gone down the river of a true true bad slump, staying the way that, Jose Altuve is right now. So it was good to see Judge kind of get on board. And, the way he's kind of now responded back the past couple nights after getting that hit, I think he would have probably done this, been the same if it had been a single or even a double or something like that. But the fact that it was a home run certainly seemed as though it visually looked like a lot of weight got lifted off his shoulders.
Yeah, and that home run I thought sparked the team. I mean, it put them on the board. It kind of got them, offensively a little bit rolling after that frustrating Friday loss. And like I said, they had a late lead, and their pen just didn't show up.
Right. Oswaldo Cabrera also chipped in, 2 for 3, a home run, a double, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. Continues really what's been a fantastic, pretty much big league debut month for him. And a guy that's, and justifiably here getting a lot of positive vibes and momentum here going. Harrison Bader, 2 for 4 with a solo home run, 2 runs scored. He has been pretty much the drumbeat going in the bottom half of that lineup so far for the Yankees in this series. And it's awesome to see the, quote-unquote hometown kid doing very well so far.
Yeah, I mean, that was his second home run at the time in the series. He's actually like one of the guys in the bottom of the order that have kind of been contributing. I mean, obviously he leads the team in home runs this postseason. I don't think the Yankees would even, be where they are right now without him. He's been huge in this postseason so far. Like I said, I don't think there would have been a Game 5 without him. He's came up huge defensively and, at the plate.
100%. And, those guys that I mentioned there, right, with Cabrera, Bader, and Judge, right, they were the only 3 guys who had hits actually on Saturday night. 5 total hits, they had all 5. So the fact of the matter is that all the offense came from those guys is really, to me, it speaks volumes. Now, not to say other guys think I basically have a couple walks, right? Rizzo and Hickey got on base, but it was rough sledding. There was some really bad at-bats overall from the Yankees. I think this is where I can kind of note, right, Gleyber Torres gets thrown into the leadoff spot last night, or 2 nights ago, rather. He was obviously the leadoff guy last night, but, Boone kind of trying to figure out the situation a little bit, trying to shake something up Saturday a little bit before it really, I guess, went off the rails for him and we'll call it the game decision factor side of managing.
Yeah, I didn't really like Judge hitting leadoff in the postseason. I think he needs, especially with how the offense is struggling, I think he needs to come up with runners on. I mean, even if he does damage, it's 1 run, it's a solo shot. You're not getting enough from him, and he's your best hitter. So I think moving him down, even just a spot, he could come up, in the 3rd, 4th inning with maybe a bottom of the order gets a guy or 2 on, maybe 2 guys are on. He has a chance at doing more damage than just 1 run.
Yeah. So, the Yankees, when the bullpen kind of gets going here and you get in these tight spots, you kind of expect a guy like Clay Holmes to kind of find himself in play a little bit. Obviously, was the Yankee closer most of the year. But obviously, you probably don't really use him quite in the 6th inning. That's where, a guy like Lou Trevino comes in. He got the hold, did great. Same thing with Jonathan Luisaga again. Came in, got another hold. Wandy Peralta comes in for an inning and 2/3 of work. Allows a couple runs, obviously, but gets a technical hold. And Clark Schmidt comes in and ends up giving up, the walk-off hit. But Clay Holmes threw 2/3 of an inning Friday night, and Boone kind of comes out and says, I didn't want to use him unless it was an emergency situation. And Holmes they go to Holmes obviously after the fact and, kind of says, well, that's not what I was told. And clearly the line of communication here has been, I don't know about severed, but certainly compromised. And to me, it made it sound as if, Holmes was ready to go when they gave him the call. And to me, especially in the 9th inning, when they pull Wandy out, that's about as emergency as I can come up with in a postseason game, outside of there being a legitimate fire you have to go and put out.
Yeah, that was just a wild situation in my mind. And the thing is, if Boone wasn't going to use him, my question with this is, why did Trevino only get 1 out? Why did Loizaga not get pushed another batter or 2? Wandy obviously, went long enough, but you had guys that could have gotten extra outs, especially because Holmes wasn't available, and then you wouldn't have had to put Schmidt with guys on base in the ninth inning in a huge game like that. I think Trevino could have came back out. Just more extra outs from guys like that. Like, I just don't think you go to like a young kid in a big spot like that.
I don't know if I necessarily.
No way Trevino should be getting just one out. If
Right.
Holmes is
I
not
don't know if I
available.
necessarily disagree exactly in that sense because they clearly brought him in to just get that guy at that point.
Yeah, but if Holmes is not available at that time, that's only
Right.
the sixth inning. You're still looking for 9 more outs.
Right. I think where it gets interesting is, if that's the case, then this is where I agree with you for sure, is why doesn't Lasanga go and you at least give him one more batter?
Every guy should have been pushed
You know.
more if Holmes is not available.
Yeah.
The bullpen's already super thin, and then you just rely on Schmidt with guys on base
Right.
already. And I just didn't like that decision.
And to me, if you're worried about distance, I mean, why don't you just use Ludke somewhere? Something like that. Or
I mean, even the other day with Clase, the Guardians pushed him. He's never gone 2 innings this year.
Right.
And they pushed him because why? It's a big game, and you use anyone for any amount of outs.
Right, and if you look over at the Cleveland side of things, right, when they pulled McKenzie out, Sam Henches went for an inning and 2/3. Eno De Los Santos went for an inning and a third before Eli Morgan came in and went 1 inning. But Eli Morgan is also one of their spot starters who could have gone distance if needed to go distance. So that being said, it begs the question, right, of what is the exact thought process going through Boone's head.
Or here's another thought. Wandy already had thrown an inning.
Yeah.
Don't bring him back out for the ninth. Give Schmidt a clean inning.
Yeah, certainly.
Because Wandy, at that time, that was Wandy's 3rd straight day pitching.
Right.
So, yeah, he already threw an inning that game. Like, yeah, he's probably running out of gas. He's a reliever.
Right.
So let's just bring in Schmidt for a clean inning with a 2-run lead.
Certainly agree. 100%. Another Boone decision blunder, we'll call it at this point, and it's only because of the way yesterday's game gets played out and the way the lineup card is submitted, is Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who, look, I feel like I've been defending him on here all year, and that's all right. But the fact of the matter is, when we need his glove to show up, it just doesn't. And that was the case on Saturday night. More or less, and this kind of can bridge ourselves over to obviously yesterday's game, but I feel like it's proper to kind of start on the Saturday side of things. I don't know. He does, IKF provides a lot of flexibility for us in the lineup because he is really the only, and it's different now that Bader's in the lineup full time. But he was for a while our only true stolen base threat opportunity on the base paths. But he clearly is not the shortstop of the future. I think that was known anyway. But he clearly, I don't even know if he's a shortstop of the present, with Cabrera getting shifted back to a more natural position for him yesterday. And to me, it feels like with benching IKF yesterday and then more than likely tonight, Boone was kind of more or less just waving the white flag on, like, I got this probably wrong all year.
Yeah, I don't get why it took until the 166th game to finally realize that, like, this guy is going to hurt you in big moments. And then Boone goes on to say that he thinks he's pressing, and it's like, yeah, you think? I mean, the guy doesn't want to make an error. The guy doesn't want to, be the reason they lose. I think it's all in his head. I mean, he makes the hard plays and then struggles with the easy plays. It's just, sometimes I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You make the hardest plays, but you can't make the routine plays. And the routine plays matter in these big spots. Right. And we've seen that early in the series.
Yeah. Let's look at it from this perspective too, right? And I don't want, maybe this is where I can kind of play devil's advocate a little bit because you kind of saw it maybe to a degree last night a little bit. But if it's kind of like choosing your own death in a way here. Would you rather go IKF or Aaron Hicks? Because Hicks last night, and I'm not saying a lot of people are saying he jogged to that ball late in the game where you had Donaldson running out and diving. I think it was kind of like he should have obviously taken control of the situation, but I think Donaldson was calling him off or something ridiculous. God. But, like, you look at a play like that, again, where we've kind of have pointed out stuff like that with Hicks all year. At the very least, IKF has been playing every day the past 2 weeks. You know, it's one of those, like, I feel like you're just shooting yourself in the foot no matter what. But to me, I'd rather just go with the guy maybe who's, I guess, been playing, and at least in some sort of playing groove at that point.
I think you're the only guy that has agreed with me on that play last night.
Yeah.
Hicks was jogging, but if Donaldson's running way out there, waving his arms, what, is he just going to run into him?
No, and that's the thing, right?
But that was definitely Hicks's ball, way easier catch for him.
Well, no, and that's the thing, right, where you should have taken command on the situation. But, I mean, I've been in that position before. I'm sure you've been in that position before where you don't want to collide with it. I mean, we saw what happened, obviously, in the Blue Jays-Mariners series last weekend where Springer, they haven't said anything, but, like, I'd imagine Springer probably had a concussion at minimum after colliding with Bichette. And we've seen it time and time again. I mean, the one that always sticks out to me, and it forever will, be the Padres back in 2005 with Mike Cameron, who luckily it didn't injure him any worse than it did colliding with, I believe it was Mark Giles. So, but I mean, look, exactly. Like, if a guy's going like this and doing whatever,
and he's
then
just running at full speed backwards. But
So,
yeah, I don't know. I just don't want IKF in the lineup because of his defense. I just can't trust it. Hicks is obviously a good defender. Take away that play. I mean, he should have had it. But
And to be fair to Hicks last night, and this is where we can jump in. Obviously, last night's game, which was a Yankee victory, he did at least look, I wouldn't say comfortable, but he gave you at least some quality at bats in that spot.
yeah, he had a walk, and at the time it was the runner on first, nobody out, and he drew a walk to set two guys up for Torres, and they ended up, I think, grabbing a run that inning. That was the Stanton sac fly.
So the Yankees obviously winning Game 4, 4-2. Gerrit Cole picks up the win, 2-0 at 2.03 ERA on the postseason. Now Cal Quantrill takes the loss, 0-2 on the postseason, a 5.40 ERA, and Wandy Peralta picks up the save, first of the postseason. Cole, 7 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned, 8 strikeouts. We've been talking more about it with, will this be Aaron Judge's signature moment in pinstripes? I think we probably have, at minimum, Gerrit Cole's pinstripe moment, courtesy of last night.
That was so huge, an elimination game. He had a couple little rough innings, but he grinded through it. He got through it, and that's what matters. He could have melted down like he has, in a couple innings this season, or one inning he'll give up 4 or 5 runs. But no, after he gave up the Naylor home run, he just settled right in.
And outside of, really, to be fair, one bad pitch, which was the Naylor home run, and even then, Naylor had to kind of go and reach it in a way. I mean, that was really his only truly, to me, bad spot of the night.
And everyone was pointing out that his velocity was down like 2 miles an hour. Like, it wasn't a big deal to me. He wasn't throwing 100, big deal. He was throwing 97.
I mean, no other guys were exactly throwing their hardest last night. It ended up raining by about the 5th inning.
And his off-speed pitches, I thought, were really good. Again.
Yeah. So Cole, obviously, and he unfazed has properly, called this, or he said the moment with Josh Naylor. Don't know why his name escaped me there for the hot minute, but it is what it is. Continuing on his hot streak, Harrison Bader chipped in a 2-run home run, 1 for 3 on the day for him. Again, I mean, I think it goes without saying what he's exactly doing for the Yankees here. Especially, they've been having him floating pretty much in between the 7 and 9 spot in the lineup. Last night he was in the 7 spot, but just an incredible job by the Yankees. And I know you tweeted it last night. It irked me for a split second, but you're right. Right, Montgomery who? So, obviously, right, I mean, you don't have Jordan Montgomery in that spot. Harrison Bader would be, but certainly has been proving his worth, especially in this series with that acquisition.
Yeah, Brian Cashman was somewhere jumping up and down and saying we won the trade or something like that. But, like I said, I don't think they'd be having this Game 5 without him. He's been huge.
Mm-hmm. And I thought the balance of the lineup yesterday was a little bit better than kind of the past couple nights. Gleyber Torres in the leadoff spot, 1 for 4 with a run and a stolen base, but really did set, the table for the first inning and really the game, Glaber did with that. Pretty much got the jump right away and got it done. And Rizzo brought him in, pretty much immediately, 2 for 4, double, RBI, only to get himself, obviously at least on that play, caught out in the middle there. But is what it is. I feel like I don't want to talk too much on the Yankee base running blunders any more than I kind of have to at this point. But lo and behold, it showed its head again at one point last night.
Yeah, there was a couple times, 2 with Anthony Rizzo. I mean, the first inning when he got picked off. But then there was a time later in the game where the ball was in like deep right center field or something like that, and I thought for sure he would tag and go to third, and he didn't.
I know which one you're talking about. It was the sac fly that brought in
Stanton. Or no, that was Stanton's sac fly. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, why didn't he tag and go to third?
So I have a hot take about that. Well, I guess not a hot take because I was watching the game with my dad, and he brought that up as well. To me, I have no problem with Rizzo kind of leaning halfway / closer to third to retreat back. Ended up being a tough play out there for Quan. Ended up being out in the gap. Him and Straw kind of had to go get it. And the way the weather was and the wind was blowing, I can't necessarily blame him. I mean, if that thing carries another foot, it's off the wall, and it's 2 runs in as opposed to 1. But I don't weigh to me, I don't weigh that one as much as obviously getting. I think they technically called it a caught stealing, but really picked off.
Yeah, I think he tried to get a big jump, and then he was like, you guys stepped off, and he was caught in the middle.
Yeah, so, and like I said, it ended up being a little bit better of balance. I mean, Donaldson chipped in a hit, middle of the lineup. Glaber and Judge obviously both had hits. And Bader down at the bottom of the lineup. But Hicks, like I mentioned, in the 9 spot, sure 0 for 2, but did work that walk, ended up being that run that we just mentioned as well. Time to shout out, by the way, Wandy Peralta. We finally got to the moment in the show that I've been looking for. I can't take full credit on this. I had some creative help in shout out to my guy Jim Spina. But Wandy Peralta the plumber, as we're going to call him, because he just shows up and goes to work the way, especially in this series. What a big spot to come in and pick up the save last night.
On 7 pitches.
Right, and it would have been, it is his 4th straight day of work, and no emergency needed for him, I guess. Just go out there and throw the ball. Not a slight on Clay Holmes. They brought Clay in the 8th inning in what baseball does now is, the high leverage spots is where you use your closer in the postseason now, and he did very well in his one inning of work. But Wandy comes in a tough spot and just as you mentioned, 7 pitches is all he needed to shut the door on the Guardians last night.
Yeah, to me it's kind of mind-boggling because I can't believe how good he is. Mm-hmm. He's not, he doesn't throw 100 miles an hour.
No.
He's from the left side. To me, it's kind of crazy how good he really is. And sometimes it doesn't even matter if he's facing a lefty. He gets righties out. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's amazing to think, because we were, Wandy's been a guy that, has had his moments this year of good and bad, and we certainly have dunked on him every now and then, but what a spot to come into and kind of really show your worth and why, to be fair, why they kept you over, Yoli Rodriguez.
And remember, they got him for Mike Tauchman.
Yeah.
And Mike Tauchman's not even in the majors anymore. I think he's over in Japan now, Tyler Austin
my
was.
beloved sock man.
Yeah, so I think they probably won the trade there too.
Yeah, maybe to a degree.
Because Tauchman's not even playing in the majors anymore, so I guess you could say they won it.
I will not stand for the Tauchman disrespect.
I do like it. I do like it.
All right, let's look ahead to tonight, Game 5, decisive Game 5. ALDS, Game 5, tonight, 7:07, first pitch on TBS. Aaron Civale gets the nod for Cleveland, 5-6 in the regular season with a 4.92 ERA versus Jameson Taillon, a 14-5 record in the regular season with a 3.91 ERA. The question remains, and me and you, I know, both are on opposite ends of this to a degree, but I cannot go without saying that Bob Costas, the way he was banging the drum on this last night, I'm just saying, I don't think you know what a bullpen game fully is if you expect Civale and Taillon only go 1 inning each or something like that.
I think he thought, though, that these guys weren't even the starters. I think he thought they were going to throw a reliever out there. The guy's clueless. I can't stand listening to him anymore.
Oof.
I muted the TV the other night. Or actually, the last few nights, I just muted the TV and watched Barstool. like a live reaction. The guy says some bad stuff.
I will say this. I don't expect either guy to go 9 innings, obviously, or anything like that, but I don't expect either of these guys to go just 2 innings and have it become a bullpen game. I understand, especially on the Guardians side of things, right? You have you're pretty much your big 3 rested in the bullpen, but if Civale's out there throwing, 1-hit ball through 4 innings, I'm not going to pull him yet, And likewise with Taillon, I don't expect the Yankees to pull him if he's throwing 1-hit ball in the 4th inning or anything like that.
I just don't think Cleveland's okay to push Civale to the point where with one swing they lose the game because of him. I think if they're going to lose the game, they're going to depend on their bullpen, which has been lights out.
So the real question to me is, and I don't fully understand it. To a degree, it's the same with the Yankees, I guess, but not as bad to me because I feel like Taillon probably should have been in the starting rotation anyway in the wild card or in the divisional round right now. But you have Shane Bieber available on pretty much de facto full rest.
Hey, we could see him. You never know.
Right, but I don't get why you're not going with him. If this is kind of baffling to me for a guy like Terry Francona. Say I'm saving him for the hypothetical game 1 of the ALCS if they make it. You worry about tomorrow. You got to get there. I mean, personally for me, I'd be throwing Bieber if I'm Cleveland today.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest with you.
Michael.
And it's not a knock on Civale. I know people probably look at the numbers and say 5-6, 4-9-2. Yeah, you're right. You probably would throw Bieber over him. But Civale's dealt with injuries all year. He's better than what his record and stats indicate for the year. In the grand scheme of things, so Bieber is a better pitcher. I'd be going Bieber here.
Yeah, Michael K said it well last night. There's no tomorrow. You got to win today. And he said he thinks that everyone will be available on the Yankees. And he said don't count it out. He doesn't think this is going to happen. But in a do-or-die game, everyone should be available,
right.
Available to the point where Gerrit Cole could even be available.
Right.
Like anyone could come in and throw a pitch. And I agree with him. Like everyone should be available. It doesn't matter if you pitch 4 days in a row. Be ready to go just in case.
Yeah.
And imagine if this game went to like 14 innings. It would be crazy. Yeah, you'd have to use all these guys.
I mean, that's where, kind of comes in, you kind of saw that pop up with Houston and Seattle on Saturday.
Yeah, who they have
night.
Garcia at like 40 pitches?
Yeah, Garcia, but he, starter who they put him out there because they know he's good enough. But, if that thing went long enough, they know that they could have left him out there for beyond 2 innings. And I think that's a big thing. I mean, you kind of saw that with the Mariners, too. I mean, I think they probably pulled the trigger on Murphy maybe a little bit too quick. But, Robbie Ray came in and gave up a home run.
Problem is, if this game goes 14 innings tonight, it's probably going to end at like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Right, correct. As opposed to 5 in the morning if it would have been out in Seattle.
Yeah.
So let's obviously, we can't discuss and preview too much, only because who knows what happens tonight. It might be Cleveland, might be New York, we don't know. ALCS Game 1 is Wednesday night in Houston. I would assume they're throwing Verlander Game 1. Obviously, we know what Cleveland will do in the hypothetical sense, that it will be Shane Bieber throwing Game 1 there. For the Yankees, I would imagine it's got to be Sevy or Cortes for Game 1 if they make it to the ALCS.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I know why we're going to talk about it because, this is a podcast and everything, but I just don't want to talk about it because I'm so worried about tonight.
No,
honestly.
I don't want to talk about it here. It's just the fact that, obviously, we're next time we'll be discussing anything on here is going to be Thursday, so we would be slightly remiss if we did not at least mention it.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, like the weather's a problem tonight. I just saw another update. Between 7 and 9, there's going to be rain, cold front moving through. And then there's, the hourly breakdown. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this game might not even start on time. I don't know. I just think it's going to be a wild night. I'm not too confident, but I'm pretty confident tonight. So we'll see. And if the game, I don't think it's going to get rained out, but if it were, that would be terrible, I think, for the Yankees if it got pushed till tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy Game 5.
Yeah, games like these are typically the first one of like 2 or 3 runs gets the win. So hopefully the bats show up early and the bullpen shows up and does its job pretty squared away.
Yeah, I think they have to jump out to to the lead first. They cannot be trailing at home. They have to have the fans right into it. And
Which they should. I mean, if Cleveland is any indication, then I think from the bleachers out in the outfield to the businessmen behind home plate, I'd expect them to be on it tonight.
yeah, for sure.
All right, so that'll wrap things up there. Mention quickly, we were loud wrong in terms of exactly who made where and everything else. Obviously, Houston swept Seattle.
Wait, am I forgetting this? Did you call the Phillies winning that series?
I believe I did.
That's what I thought when it was happening. I was like, oh my God, Paul is right.
I believe I called the Phillies, and I know the only one I don't think I got exactly right. Did I get San Diego? I feel like I did. We'd have to rewind.
The only thing I know is you didn't get Seattle right.
Correct.
But that's like, kind of.
I mean, you had the Mets winning the World Series, Paul. So I don't know where.
Wait, didn't you
that
have the
comes into the
Guardians making it
I
past?
I did have the Guards versus the Mets in the World Series.
Hey, the Guardians are still alive, though. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
This has been a crazy postseason.
It's baseball.
The Phillies are still in it.
It's baseball. The fact that people are saying we should just have a regular season. Nah, screw it. It's baseball. It's postseason. You never know what might happen.
I think it's fun. I mean, it's not just the teams that are expected to win that are winning.
I mean, Nate caught me in a stray the other day because he had to bring up my beloved Tampa Bay Lightning from a few years ago when they got knocked out by Columbus.
Do you want to have the conversation about making the playoffs a little bit different in terms of 7-game series and playing a few less in the regular season?
Yeah, I think we can probably bring that up here for a couple minutes. I don't see a problem with that.
It would make sense to me to get that games down a little bit in the regular season and then be able to play 7-game
But
series.
why are people complaining about the buys?
Yeah.
I think
That's where I
just a
think
joke.
that's where people are kind of bringing it up. To me, I would do 154 anyway in the regular season.
You play 162 games and then you have a 5-game series to decide. It seems kind of.
That's the way the NBA was. I mean, obviously not to that extreme, but that was the way the NBA was up until about 15 years ago.
And they changed it.
Because money talked. It's the same thing with baseball. Unless the next broadcast rights for TV, that's why the playoffs are the way they are now. They just had that new deal come through with ESPN and Turner, and I guess Fox, technically speaking, for the way it is. So I probably won't see any changes for the 5 or 6 years until we get back to the new TV cycle deal.
Then I can't imagine the complaints of the Phillies and.
I mean, the only people complaining are the Dodgers fans right now. They're the only ones complaining. They're the only ones up in arms, which.
Yeah, but imagine if it's the Phillies Guardians. I feel like everyone's going to complain, oh, I'm not watching this World Series, and the ratings are going to be way down.
But there will be people complaining about. There's going to be people complaining no matter what about this the rest of the postseason.
But I think that's
right?
fun. Two teams that are smaller markets.
Right. No, I'm with you. I mean, to me, the ultimate, FU would be something like Padres Guardians at this point. I mean, really, the ultimate one would have been Padres Mariners, but simply put, obviously, that's not going to happen anymore. To me, and this is I know this is a little bit different compared to, especially say the Super Bowl, but it compares better off to say the Stanley Cup Final and the NBA Finals, in that the only guaranteed people you're going to have watching are going to be the diehards, the actual fans of the team. All right. Now, for me, it's different. I'm a Yankee fan, right? I'm upfront about that. But I'm a baseball fan really at the core. So it could be, I'm going to use the two teams I hate maybe on each league the most, right? It'd be Boston, right? And it'd be the Dodgers, and I'd still be watching. It's not going to hamper me from watching. If you're a fan of baseball, the sport itself, it could be Kansas City, Colorado, and you're still going to watch at the end of the day.
That's how it is for me.
Right. And yeah, that's the way it's going to be. The only people complaining at this point are what I will I'll call them what they are. They're the fair-weather Dodger fans. The ones who are writing in right now to the LA Times, and the editorial staff that are even writing that themselves is ludicrous to me, given the fact of who some of the people are who have come through that bullpen and have written about the Dodgers in the past. It's laughable to me that that's where they are now. So it's whatever.
And the Dodgers didn't even deserve to win that series. I mean,
exactly. If you're going to find anybody to complain about Dave Roberts saving Clayton Kershaw for whatever reason that I don't even know. The classic choke artist that is Kershaw in the postseason.
Yep.
And
then Tommy Kahnle melted down in game 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that's what I was going back to with them. I mean, to me, the Astros are the same way. Is that bullpen is just. I get that they're good. I get that they're great. But I mean, if you don't have a true guy to go to, sometimes, I mean, that's case number one right there.
Yeah,
You know?
if the same teams make it every year in all these leagues, I mean, it's so boring. Like, let's have different teams. I'm so tired of the Dodgers. I'm so glad they're out. It's too bad Houston's still in, but what are you going to do, you know?
I mean, I'll say this, at least the Houston's end, and we can say what we want really about them in the grand scheme of things, but at least with them, you know, they've really have done this now from a consistent standpoint of, you know, we're pushing about 7 total seasons on this, and they had a long grind to get to the top, and they've been able to at least sustain it. You know, this is what, the 6th straight year that they're at least in the ALCS.
Yeah, I mean,
That's nuts.
They deserve credit for sure. Just, you know, even if I wasn't a Yankee fan, like, I wouldn't like seeing the same team. It's like that
Well,
with NBA.
everybody likes parity.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know this is one of the games that Nate and Josh enjoy doing. Take a shot anytime Paul brings up racing, but I mean that's why people in NASCAR love the NASCAR Cup Series this year. They're at 19 different winners this year. It's tied for the record period, not just modern era, but the whole kit and caboodle. You know, we're one driver away in the next 3 races from it being the most drivers to ever win in a season.
Yeah, and then in the NHL this year, we're gonna have a new winner, the Buffalo Sabres. So
Exactly. We're out of the Senators.
yeah, it makes it more fun.
The fighting Craig Andersons across the board. All right, so that will wrap it up for Concrete Jungle today. We'll obviously talk about everybody Thursday no matter what here. So good luck to the Yankees tonight. Hopefully we continue talking about them. We'll say of note, we're finally getting the stuff in for the minor leagues. They're all-stars, all teams, awards, stuff like that. So Thursday we'll probably sprinkle in this first bit of that as we get going. I know the Syracuse Mets got stuff released on that over the weekend. I just haven't taken a full look at that quite yet, so we'll circle back around to that. Kyle, you taking your PJ down to the Bronx for Game 5, or are you just hanging out up here?
I wish I was going. I did look at tickets last night, but I was like, wow, insane. But I'm just glad I got to the first game. But yeah, I'll be watching from my couch tonight. Probably standing up though, pacing.
Nervous Nelly. Nate, same with you, I'm assuming.
Yep, I'll be checking in every few innings, watch a little football. You'll never know. But Kyle, I was looking at Ticketmaster this morning, and you can get in under $100. So, what's it, about noon Eastern time? You can fly down there in the next 5 or 6 hours, right?
It's definitely possible. I didn't like being way up.
I know. I'm just
the drive's still possible.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, appreciate Nate, as always, behind the scenes, handling everything back there for Collins, Paul Russo. We'll talk to everybody Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. Catch up anytime on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify. We'll talk to everybody Thursday. Go Yankees. Have a fantastic week, everybody.